right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. You're watching a very special edition of The Money Show post the union budget. We are, of course, answering all the questions and queries that you may have. What will be the impact of the union budget on your finances, on your spendings, and more importantly, your tax bill? In fact, keeping it with tax bill, here's a bit of a bummer. There are no changes in the personal income tax slab. Usually, whenever there are any tweaks in the personal income tax slab, it is to the benefit. It essentially does involve maybe reducing the rate or, tweaking the slabs in such a way that overall our tax liability does reduce. But that has not happened this time around. Your tax slabs are as is. But there are several steps taken to reduce or rather ease the compliance with the income tax structure, especially for senior citizens who are more than 75 years of age. They are in fact now exempt from filing an income tax return, provided they have just a few categories of income. Then there's also, of course, the entire IT-80 or the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal process, which is going to be taken faceless. There are several other things. There are lots of stops available for affordable housing as well. Remember, there was that extra 1.5 lakh exemption available for, or not an exemption, but a deduction rather available for those individuals who take a certain category of home loan. So that was available only till 31st March 21. Now it's been extended by 1 more year to 31st March 2022. So several stops. We'll make sense of all of this and more. We have with us a very special guest, Alok Agarwal of Deloitte India. Alok, thank you so much for joining us today on The Money Show. So Alok, to start with, let's sort of make sense of everything that we have seen. The one thing we know for certain is no change in personal income tax slabs. But what else has the union budget brought about? Is there going to be any tweak we can expect on the amount of tax we'll pay next year?
Yes, Mobina, unfortunately there is. So as you rightly pointed out, no change to the tax rates and tax slabs. So that was a big relief for most of us who were expecting some sort of COVID cess across the board, or perhaps a higher tax rate or surcharge for the high income groups. But so that's a relief that those haven't come in. But there's one thing which has come in, which is taxation of interest earned on your Provident fund. So as you know, Mobina, last year we had a provision which was introducing taxation of employer contributions in excess of 7.5 lakhs in the aggregate between PF, NPS and superannuation fund contributions. But this year, they have introduced another provision where at the time of withdrawal of your accumulated PF balance, even if you satisfy all the conditions for exemption of that balance, the interest that you have earned, if your contributions as an employee contributions were more than 2.5 lakhs during the year, the interest earned on that will be taxable. So this is surprising one, which you could say that most people were not expecting.
I guess the rationale behind that would be that, firstly, it's of course, 2.5 lakh rupees of interest on an annual basis. So if we have to, let's say, take roughly 8 to 8.5% as a rate of interest, so that means that the deposit has to be that much. So I'm assuming, Alok, it's for a small... Yes, go on.
Oh, Mobina, sorry, just to clarify, it's the interest earned if your employee contributions are in excess of 2.5 lakhs per annum. So it is not a very high threshold, because if you, for your employee contributions to be more than 2.5 lakhs per annum at the rate of, let's say, just the 12%, assuming you are not making any voluntary PF contributions, then at a basic salary of 20.83 lakhs per annum, you would cross that 2.5 lakh employee PF contribution threshold. So let's say somebody with a CTC of 50 lakhs, who has a basic salary of around 21 lakhs, which is considered for PF, his contributions, the employee contributions, then that would exceed 2.5 lakhs. And therefore, the interest on that employee contributions would no longer be tax-free on a prospective basis. So from 21, 22 onwards.
So your basic salary would then be 21 lakhs, and then you take, roughly 12% of that, which comes to 2.5 lakh rupees. So the contribution should be 2.5 lakh rupees, not the interest. The contribution, if it exceeds 2.5 lakh rupees, then the interest on that will no longer be tax free. And yeah, I think the idea behind that is then that, you don't want employees essentially putting how much ever they can in their Provident fund to be able to enjoy the tax-free provision, I guess, in a way. So this is, I guess, going to be an important one. Additionally, I want to talk about some of the schemes that have been put up for dispute resolution. When we have, our income tax cases that go in for dispute, we make of course, no, we don't make any more appearances. Everything, of course, is faceless. But how has essentially the whole assessment process been eased? I understand that the ITAT or the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal as well will now be completely done via, through a digital mode, which is great, because up until now we had the first step of the litigation, which would be done faceless. Now even the next step is digital. So if you could just explain that to us as well.
Sure. So we were already using the faceless assessment scheme until now, and you would not have to visit the tax officer. You could submit all the information online to the tax officer. And while there were teething troubles, I think we have seen not so bad situation where you would finally be able to cross the line in terms of closing the assessments. I would say it probably takes a little bit more back and forth because you're dealing with somebody at the other end of an email, but it's a good start. And now they have extended that to the tribunal as well. But again, Mobina, I would like to share a more important relaxation, which is in terms of the timeline of assessments. So like the FM mentioned, now we have the window of only 4 years, which was, so for reopening your assessment, it was 4 years, up to 4 years, 4 to 6 years, or you could even have 16 years. So now they have crunched that into two simple timelines. Your assessments can be reopened up to 3 years from the end of the assessment year, which is basically 4 years from the end of the financial year. Or it could be 10 years from the end of the assessment year, which is basically 11 years if the income which has escaped assessment is exceeding 50 lakhs. So that's a very good threshold where a lot of smaller taxpayers would not be affected by that. So the 16 years maximum timeline has come down to 10 years. And you can have a situation where, let's say, your tax filing for March 21, by March of 2025, you will know that you are not being picked up even for a reassessment. So in a span of 4 years from the end of the financial year, your tax affairs would be completely settled, so to speak, unless you're in that 50 lakh plus category that we discussed. So I would say that is also a significant ease from a taxpayer headache perspective, because if you have these old assessments, then you can imagine it's quite painful to pull out all the information and provide all those clarifications.
Yeah, it definitely is quite a breather, especially if you're a small taxpayer, because you have the surety that, your tax case of, really old years is finally closed. Okay, we have a live caller joining us now, Mangalam. Hi, Mangalam. Good evening, and thank you for calling in. What's your question?
Good evening, ma'am. See, I am a senior citizen, age 73 years.
Okay.
Madam has considerably taken consideration of giving 75 years and above tax concession, filing the tax return.
Yes.
But I just wanted to see that if it is made between 70 to 75, because this is the age where we can go a little bit outside and all. 75 onwards, people may live or may not be very hardly, especially female people. So those gap, if it is given, at least for a few years, at least we can enjoy the life with the tax benefits. She is very considerate and I hope she can do this much, at least if you can put a word on this matter, please.
Okay, Mangalam ji. We'll definitely try our best. We are interviewing the finance minister. But yeah, Mangalam ji, it's like this. Then if you bring it to 70, then what's not to say that somebody who's 68 will say that, it's just a question of 2 more years, frankly. But it's just 2 more years of filing the return. And guess what? She's made the process very simple. Everything comes pre-filled in the income tax return. Now, even any long-term capital gain, of course, this is firstly applicable only to those individuals who have interest and pension income. But even long-term capital gain now from listed securities will come pre-filled in your return. So I think the entire process is made very simple. But yes, I understand, Mangalamji, where you're coming from. If I was in your place, I would have probably hoped for the same as well. We'll definitely, and I hope through ET now, through the finance secretary and all the officials watching, they've heard you, Mangalamji. So who knows, maybe they may be convinced by listening to you. Okay. Alok, I wanted to ask you about things that have been done for affordable housing. There was this 1.5 lakh extra deduction that the FM had allowed last year. If, just to refresh and jog our memories once again, what exactly was that and what's the latest that she has announced over there?
Sure, Mavina. So we have a 2 lakh rupee deduction in any case. In addition to that, for affordable housing, the FM had introduced an additional deduction of 1.5 lakhs for affordable housing where the stamp duty value was up to 45 lakhs. So it's a small ticket size we are looking at. And they have also defined the size for metros. So it's fairly for the small apartments in a metro where you can imagine the 45 lakh value will not get you a very large apartment. And what they've done is, this was expected. The cutoff for getting this deduction was where the loan should have been sanctioned by 31st March of 2021. And now that has been extended by another year. So you can get this deduction so long as your loans are sanctioned by March 2022. So a total deduction of 3.5 lakhs, 2 plus 1.5, which was already there, just extended.
So in total, basically, these individuals who are buying these affordable category homes will get 3.5 lakhs. Am I right, Alok?
That's right.
Till 31st. Right. Okay.
That's right.
Great. Well, folks, we are out of time, so we'll have to wrap up this tax Q&A session here. Alok, thank you so much for joining us today on The Money Show and, answering our questions and queries as well. Well, we'll take a very short break on the show, but when we return, we will be addressing indirect tax with Deloitte India. Don't go anywhere.